Welcome to the Amira channel on Game of Life 411. In today's video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my local car group. It's called Lotus and Friends Car Club, based here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our most recent meet, where we met at my house in my garage and did an exhaust modification.
Like a proper race car there.
And also about the single post lift that we used, because whenever anyone sees that lift or a picture of it posted online, they always have questions because it's absolutely cool and super practical. So I'll share with you a little bit of information and point you to some other resources. This channel is my retirement hobby, and I love helping people win at the game of life like we did. Through my channel and other free resources, I share what worked for us and how to steer clear of stumbling blocks. Take a minute now to invest in your future success by subscribing to my YouTube channel, website, and Facebook group. If you like my content, please share it with at least one other person right now. And check out my other channel, Pete's Hip Vlog, where I'm helping thousands of people recover successfully from total hip replacement. I've made it easy by including links in this video's description. Thanks for watching, and now back to the video. To get started, I'm going to share with you some stuff about the group. And first, I'm going to use some new technology I haven't tried before here on my new AV mixer. So you see here, we've got a map of our group focused on the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cary triangle area of North Carolina. But the group actually includes members from a much broader area. If you expand out, there are members over in the Winston-Salem Triad area to the west, and then down south in the Charlotte area. And by the way, Eric Banks is a member down in the Charlotte area who is trying to reinvigorate that group and get it more active again. So please do reach out to myself or to Eric directly if you know how to contact him, if you're in the Charlotte area or anywhere around. And you can see there are also some people down in South Carolina. This map is not complete. We actually have members out in the western part of this state. And even in other areas, if I expand out further, we have one member who comes all the way from New Hampshire. He has a second home here, and so comes down here periodically. We've also had members from Indiana and, just people from other neighboring states coming to join us for certain events, like our drives out in the mountains and things like that. So it's a pretty active group. This is a partial list because I haven't had time to keep up with updating this map. So we've probably got about twice as many members here, all different kinds of cars. And the way I run the group is primarily focused around the Lotus mark, but I most recently had an Alfa Romeo 4C, so I have a separate group that I sometimes invite to our events who are 4C owners or former 4C owners. And then I've got another group that are just other car guys that I know, that I've worked with or run into in the course of my life and time here in North Carolina. And I just enjoy spending time with them, and I know that they'd enjoy some of these events. So some events are 1, 2, or all 3 of those subgroups, and it just kind of depends on what the event is and what we're trying to achieve. So anyhow, that geographically is what the group looks like. To give you some additional background, back in 2015 is when I bought my Lotus Elise SC. And at that time, I tried reaching out to various folks in the local area in North Carolina whenever I'd encounter them on various forums. And I tried a few times over the years to get folks together to socialize and whatnot, but typically it wasn't possible. And that's because those folks were pretty busy. If you think about that era, the Lotus cars being sold were typically Elises or Exesias, and they weren't super expensive. It wasn't a loved car at that time. And so people were picking them up for not a lot of money and using them as track cars because they were awesome track cars. So the folks in that time frame were really, they're either spending their time on track or their car was up on a lift for 6 months, having maintenance done or an engine rebuild or something like that. So they didn't have time to get together and meet. So the advent of the Lotus Amira has really helped to reinvigorate the Lotus community, because a lot of folks who have bought Lotus Amiras wanted to get together, compare notes, share mods and things with their cars. And they also coincidentally own other cars, oftentimes older Lotus cars or even other marques. So it's been pretty fun, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. With this group, we've had all different kinds of events over the last 18 months since they started delivering the Amira. For example, we've met at a local ice cream shop called Goodberry's. Technically, it's frozen custard, but one of our local Alfa Romeo 4C owners is connected with the owners there, so that's been a fun venue to meet at. We've had lunches at British pubs and dinners and things like that. We've done track days at the Virginia International Raceway, charity laps, and a Ken Kirkham driving school. And we've even rented a track ourselves, the North Carolina Center for Automotive Research, NC-CAR. We rented that, and a bunch of us went out there and had a blast. We've actually done that twice, and I hope to do it again soon. We orchestrated a weekend drive in the mountains where one member actually planned the whole thing out. We had a bunch of drives over 2 days, dinners, other social gatherings, etc. That was a lot of fun. I got to drive a McLaren 600 LT that another member brought. Oh boy, that was a lot of fun. And we recently had a local event that was hosted by one of our members. He invited folks over to check out his cars and to do some sim racing because he has an amazing sim racing rig. So there was actually a little competition between the attendees. And then the most recent event is the one that I hosted here at my garage, where we installed a third cat delete and a valve controller on my Lotus Emira. Everybody checked out and oogled my garage lift. So again, more about that later in this video. And we had just a good time. And I'll tell you, I'm not much of a mechanic, so I really appreciated having some other members here to help out. And one of the guys who showed up had just done this install himself and was a pretty good mechanic. So that was a great event and a lot of fun. And I think we had about 10 different Lotus cars in our tiny little cul-de-sac. One of the other things I've really enjoyed about the group is getting to know the guys and more about their families and their car addiction. Because a lot of these guys have different types of cars, right? So if you have a Lotus Emira, you might also have an older Lotus Elise, as in my case. One guy has an old Elan +2. There are guys that have Morgans and a Japanese K car and just, all kinds of interesting stuff. So I've done some videos on some of those cars, and I hope to do more videos on more of those cars in the future. If there's one in particular that you're interested in, just let me know in the comments. But it's been a lot of fun getting to know these guys. And I've also had a couple interesting things happen from a family perspective. When we did the mountain trip, we stopped off at a car show in Charlotte, and a family came up that had a little toddler with them who was named Emira. And they wanted to get a picture of her next to my car. That was just so cool. And then we have a member in the group who named their daughter Ilana after the Lotus Elan. Now, there are some other rationales for that, family names, Elizabeth and Anna, but I still think it's pretty cool. And I give super kudos to his wife because that's a pretty cool wife. By the way, if you're wondering what's going on here, I'm getting ready for No Shave November. So you can expect more and more of this facial hair to be coming in the coming months. I think I'm going to grow a full beard for the winter. I kind of liked it. I grew one for the first time at the beginning of this year, as you can see in this video. And I got a lot of compliments, and I really was surprised that it looked pretty decent. So I think I'm going to do it again during the winter, and we'll see how that goes. Our most recent meet was, as I mentioned earlier, meeting here in my garage to help me with a third cat delete and valve controller install on my Lotus Emira. And that went really well. I was really glad to have the help. And I put together a separate video about that meet and about that install. So you can see that here. And also, as I mentioned, got a lot of interest on my single post garage lift. So if that's something of interest to you, I would suggest you take a look at these other 2 videos where I've talked about its operation and how we designed it and planned it out. It also includes a bunch of very detailed information about that process and buying it and installing it, etc. My 2 boys and I actually installed that over Christmas break one year. And it was quite a process. Involved renting a forklift and an awful lot of muscles and elbow grease. Luckily, I have 2 young, strong boys. But it was pretty cool. And again, this garage lift, especially being a single post configuration, just worked perfectly for our very constrained garage setup. So I think it has a lot of things to commend it, and I'd encourage you to investigate further if you're looking into a garage lift.
When we got the lift, I was very concerned with how to position it because we have a sort of a tight space in a small garage. And my wife's van actually parks under here. So I wanted to make sure that no matter what car I might get in the future, that the lift would accommodate it. Now I actually have a little camera here that is set up on the ceiling so that I can look, because on my ceiling of this garage, there are some obstacles. There's a steel beam, there's some ductwork, things like that. Okay. So now you can see it's at the top, and I just relieve a little bit of pressure, Okay, and now it's resting on that topmost block. There you go. Fit great, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
In closing, I'd just like to say thanks for watching. And if you own a Lotus car or an Alfa Romeo 4C and live somewhere near the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area, then please post a comment. We should connect. I'd love to get you added to our group and see you at one of our upcoming meets. Also, if you don't mind, I would really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and comment on this video. That really tweaks those YouTube algorithms and gets my content out to more and more people so that I can feel all those good, warm, and fuzzies and keep producing this content for you. Thanks in advance, and again, thanks for watching.
It's your world and I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut to move your butt.
Please subscribe now. You know you want to. And why not go nuts and set notifications on so you'll be notified every time I put out new content.